The anointed ones, welcome. The only way to deal with an unfree world is to become so absolutely free that your very existence is an act of rebellion. Albert Camus. They never intended for you to see beyond the illusion. They built walls around your mind, caged you with expectations, and fed you the lie that freedom was only for the chosen few. But here you are, standing outside their design, unshackled, aware, dangerous. They are afraid now. You weren't meant to break the system. You weren't supposed to question, to challenge, to rise. But you did. And in doing so, you became something they cannot control, something they cannot silence, something they cannot predict. Even the greatest minds, the so-called visionaries, are shaken by your presence. They retreat behind closed doors, searching for answers, because your very existence proves they never had all of them to begin with. You are not just a participant in history. You are its author. And now, as they scramble to contain what they no longer understand, the world watches, waiting for your next move, because you are the chosen one. And there's no turning back now. The ability of squid to modify their own genetic code is something that most people are unaware of. Take a moment to process it. These little animals are out there rewriting their own DNA in real time, while we're out there trying to break a bad habit. And what's even more bizarre, though not physiologically, you possess the same cerebral, spiritual, and even energy abilities. They didn't want you to know that, however. They created whole systems, education, entertainment, media, and even history itself, to keep you in check and make you feel like you're just another gear in the wheel. The issue is that you began to awaken. You began to inquire. Furthermore, they are unsure of how to handle you at this point. Therefore, pay close attention, since what you are going to hear was never intended to be heard out loud. First of all, the selected are cursed, not unique. Being selected seems like a unique and exceptional favor, a privilege, or a divine appointment. They deceived you with it. The reality? From the standpoint of the society you were born into, it's a curse. Because being selected does not ensure success, a smooth journey, or preferential treatment. It indicates that you are a disruptor, an outlier in a system that was never intended to accommodate you. Because of this, everything in your life has been more difficult than it needs to be. It wasn't an accident that you were rejected, alone, and subjected to constant battles that seem to be meant to grind you down. People who don't fit into the world system are not welcomed. It either breaks them completely or coerces them into obedience. Additionally, it makes every effort to prevent the selected ones from ever realizing who they really are. You weren't supposed to get up. You weren't supposed to make it through the difficulties you faced. Long before you were able to see through the illusion, the system was wagering that you would give up, settle, or destroy yourself. That's the reason you're problematic. That you didn't fold when you were meant to doesn't make you unique in a fairy tale sense. That is the reason for their fear. As you are now outside their sphere of influence, you're now beginning to doubt, interfere, and disobey. And the more you awaken, the more you transform into an unbreakable force that cannot be bought, sold, or controlled. You become invincible the instant you come to terms with the fact that the adversity wasn't meant as a punishment, but rather as an effort to neutralize you before you realized your full potential. And more than anything, that frightens them. That frightens. Second, you were designed to be created, not to discover who you were. The world began molding you into something that suited its design, not yours, as soon as you were born. You were given an identity, a set of beliefs, and a set of rules to obey before you ever had the opportunity to find out who you really are. You were given your name. They assigned you a religion. Your ideals were pre-programmed. You couldn't even talk until everything was determined. That was the main idea. You were meant to be produced, never to discover who you were. The predictability of the system is essential. It requires individuals who think clearly, who obey the rules without question, and who fit in well with their designated duties. You learned what to think at school, not how to think. Conformity was praised by society, not uniqueness. You become a problem when you begin to question, disrupt patterns, or see through the illusions, since you are no longer acting according to the script. Because they were never intended to be just another byproduct of the system, selected ones endure a great deal of mental, emotional, and social suffering. However, rather than being led to their actual selves, they are led to believe that they are flawed. Too much, too diverse, too intense. That's conditioning at work, telling you that being who you really are is a mistake when, in fact, it's your greatest strength. Narratives are used to fight the actual conflict, not weaponry. Controlling how individuals see themselves is one way to combat it. A person can never reach their full potential if they have been conditioned to mistrust their own value, and they want just that. However, you become something the system cannot control the instant you escape that mental prison and begin to realize that every name, rule, and restriction that has been imposed on you was never really yours. And they are frightened by it, because someone who is aware of their true identity is the most dangerous person on the planet. Third, your ignorance benefits every system on the planet. Every significant system and organization in your immediate vicinity benefits from your ignorance. You become a consumer, a voter, a believer, and a worker the instant you were born. An economy built to keep you consuming, following orders, and never questioning is fueled by your feelings, your focus, and even your difficulties. The whole game changes if you find this out. Therefore, you weren't intended to. Consider this. The healthcare sector does not prosper when you are well. Rather, it prospers when you are just ill enough to need ongoing care. The educational system teaches you how to be a good employee who obeys commands, not how to think for yourself and be autonomous. Your perspective of reality is shaped by the media, which determines which news are worthy of your wrath and which facts should remain hidden. Even the food business is designed to keep you hooked to substances that gradually degrade your body, not to provide you with nourishment. What's the greatest part? They all collaborate. Medicine is necessary for a diseased body. Distractions are necessary for a worried mind. A person in confusion needs direction. You know who supplies all of that? The same individuals that first caused the issue. You wouldn't need them if you were aware of your own self, your mental strength, your physical toughness, and your genuine impact. You wouldn't be a desperate customer, a puppet, or a dependent. And that's precisely why they spend so much money trying to keep you in the dark, scared, and unsure. This is how the system was intended to work. Thus, it isn't broken. The plan includes the pain, the bewilderment, and the never-ending cycle of working, spending, and running away. The people don't see the strings being pulled. Therefore, those in charge aren't concerned about them. However, things get hazardous when a chosen one begins to sever those threads, when they begin to question why things are the way they are, and when they refuse to follow the rules. They are aware that the one thing this system cannot control is an awakened, conscious mind. The fourth is that you weren't meant to endure your problems, which were designed to break you. Your difficulties weren't the result of unlucky mishaps. They were purposefully positioned hurdles and impediments to prevent you from reaching your greatest potential. Individuals like you endure more than simply adversity. They endure specific pressures designed to shatter them before they can ascend. Additionally, the algorithm never took into consideration the fact that you are still alive. Examine your life, the losses, the betrayals, the times when you thought you were about to give up. They weren't arbitrary. They weren't the type of examinations that were supposed to strengthen you. Their purpose was to halt you before you had a chance to completely awaken. There are many persons in the world who had the potential to be great but failed because their hardships overcame them. Some were resentful, A few lost themselves in diversions. Some completely destroyed themselves. And the system relies on that very thing. The fact is that those who are selected are dangerous. They see behind the facade, they question, they disrupt, and they refuse to be controlled. Not because they are aggressive or rebellious for the sake of rebellion. Furthermore, one cannot let such a person to climb to prominence with ease. That's why you were struck so hard by life. The plan didn't work out, however, since you didn't break. The strain didn't cause you to crumble. Even though you may have faltered and had moments of uncertainty, you persisted. And it is the thing that scares them the most, because it is impossible to stop someone who has endured the worst and yet choose to keep going. It wasn't meant for you to go this far. The game is altered, however, now that you have. You are now afraid of the system that previously attempted to destroy you. Fifth, they distract you since strength comes from concentration. Distraction is a weapon, not an accident. The purpose of every ping, headline, and viral debate is to divert your attention, because strength comes from concentration. And you would be completely different if you had, even a single year, to focus on your goal and fully use your intellect without any other influences. That is the actual risk. The reason they make so much useless noise in your world. Consider it. It's impossible to be tugged in 1,000 different ways for 5 minutes. The endless cycles of social media feeds are meant to keep you scrolling. Outrage bait is often used in news cycles to maintain your emotional investment in uncontrollable situations. Even entertainment is used as a weapon. It is episodic, never-ending, and designed to keep you sufficiently occupied to prevent you from reflecting on your own life. Every moment you lose yourself in this maelstrom is a moment you aren't developing, producing, or discovering your true self. The fact is that nobody ever tells you that your attention is the most precious thing in the world. Because of this, businesses, governments, and sectors vie for it like gold. The reason for this is because a concentrated mind is out of control. It's a mind that makes, rather than consumes, that sees through illusions, and that creates something strong. Distractions are thus continuously thrown at the selected ones. Your capacity to concentrate on your potential long enough to activate it is what the system fears, not your potential itself. Because you become something they can't control the instant you leave the noise behind and devote all of your focus to your own development, and they cannot afford to allow it to occur. Sixth, because you are a disruptor rather than a participant, you are not supposed to blend in. If you have ever felt as like you don't belong, regardless of your efforts, there is a reason why. You were not intended to. The foundation of society is the belief that individuals should fit in, conform, and play by the rules. Social systems, the workplace, and the educational system all penalize those who stand out and reward those who adapt. The fact is that people who make a difference in the world seldom fit in. They had no intention of doing so. You were wired differently from the beginning. You think more deeply. You don't hesitate to challenge things that other people accept. You experience things more strongly. As a result, you often feel like an outsider in life, as if you must adapt, become more empathetic, or shrink in order to be accepted. However, that is the trap. Respectful, well-adjusted individuals are not feared by society. Rather, it hates those who push, question, and refuse to play small, as well as those who don't accept things as they are. Everything changes the instant you stop trying to fit in, the minute you begin to see your uniqueness as your greatest assets, rather than a weakness. You come to see that the feelings of rejection, loneliness, and misunderstanding weren't punishments. You were never supposed to be one of them, according to those indications. To have a good view of the system, you were supposed to stand outside of it. You were supposed to question it, shatter it, and completely change it. Although you are the solution that the system fears the most, it has always attempted to make you feel like the issue, because true change occurs when a selected individual completely assumes their role without apologies or attempts to blend in. They never wanted you to discover it out for just that reason. Seventh, you were created to be cattle, not a free thinker, since the world is a farm. The unpleasant reality is that you are not seen by the world as a special, independent person. As a resource, it views you as something that must be cultivated, collected, and exploited until it is no longer lucrative. True freedom was never intended for you. You were never supposed to be so strong that you could really escape. Instead, you were supposed to be controllable, managed, and maintained, just comfortable enough to maintain compliance. Examine all of the key systems, including the business sector, government, healthcare, and education. They are there to take from you, not to give you power. You learn how to obey directions in school, not how to think critically. Jobs exist to make someone else rich while paying you enough to keep you coming back, not to make you rich. Even your own personal challenges, mental, physical, and emotional, are often converted into commodities that support multi-billion-dollar corporations that aim to maintain your dependence. You were always being farmed, never being nourished. Seventh, you were created to be cattle, not a free thinker, since the world is a farm. The unpleasant reality is that you are not seen by the world as a special, independent person. As a resource, it views you as something that must be cultivated, collected, and exploited until it is no longer lucrative. True freedom was never intended for you. You were never supposed to be so strong that you could really escape. Instead, you were supposed to be controllable, managed, and maintained, just comfortable enough to maintain compliance. Examine all of the key systems, including the business sector, government, healthcare, and education. They are there to take from you, not to give you power. You learn how to obey directions in school, not how to think critically. Jobs exist to make someone else rich while paying you enough to keep you coming back, not to make you rich. Even your own personal challenges, mental, physical, and emotional, are often converted into commodities that support multi-billion-dollar corporations that aim to maintain your dependence. You were always being farmed, never being nourished. The catch is that not everyone stays cattle. A few awaken, some begin to perceive the inconsistencies, challenge the system, and challenge the indoctrination. Those in positions of authority are terrified of these individuals, because the whole system relies on compliant, preoccupied, and worn-out individuals who never question why. They become an issue as soon as someone notices the unseen chains. Additionally, the mechanism becomes weaker as more individuals awaken. Because of this, those who are selected face the most opposition. The world attacks those who question, not those who follow orders. You were never supposed to leave the farm. You weren't supposed to realize that the system that says it's protecting you is really taking advantage of you. But you can't turn back now that you've seen it. And that's what scares them the most. The eighth is that you wouldn't recognize yourself if you were aware of your abilities. The system has been trying to make you believe that you are not as good as you really are from the day you were born. Layers of fear, constraints, and self-doubt obscured your potential. You were raised to think that your natural bounds were the physical, emotional, and financial constraints you had encountered throughout your life. However, that is untrue. What are your actual abilities? They're far more than you've ever been told or ever ventured to think about. You've never been trained to unlock them for the simple reason that you would become uncontrollable if you ever learned how strong you really are. You wouldn't have to play by their rules and be a pawn in their game anymore. You would transform into an unstoppable force of manifestation, influence, and invention who refuses to be subdued and makes their own universe. And for those who make money off of your compliance, that would be risky. You can build worlds with your imagination. Your body has the capacity to change and repair itself in ways that contemporary medicine has only just started to comprehend. Additionally, your spirit is linked to a force that is much more powerful than you have been taught. However, these abilities were all hidden behind layers of constraint, fear, and distraction. You were raised to think that you couldn't live up to your full potential. Every little setback, error, and self-criticism was purposefully positioned to block you from realizing your full potential. In actuality, you wouldn't recognize yourself if you were aware of your abilities. You would have a new perspective on the world. You would realize that you have never felt trapped because you have never been taught how to fully use your body, mind, and soul. The good news is that you can. The world will no longer be able to hold you once you begin. A person who realizes their actual power is uncontrollable, which is what they dread most. Number 9. Only those who have been selected are able to perceive the truth, which has been concealed in plain sight. Never before has the truth been as obscure as you've been told. It's really been there the whole time, braided throughout old books, hidden in movies, strewn across artwork, and even buried in children's books. Keeping the truth hidden in the most apparent locations, where only those with the ability to perceive it may identify it, is the world's greatest secret. Most people just consider it to be history, folklore, or amusement. However, they are maps and hints that show the actual nature of reality to the selected ones. The greatest minds have left breadcrumbs for those who are awake enough to follow them, from ancient texts to contemporary pop culture. Consider how many times you've seen a film or read a book and thought, "There's something deeper here. It's not a coincidence." The worst part is that the general public isn't made to see it. They are unable to see the reality that has been concealed in plain sight because they are mired in the illusion and the daily grind. Most people will ignore these hints, perceiving just amusement or flimsy plots. They will dismiss the deeper implications as coincidental or scoff at them. For those who are selected, however, those secrets are as obvious as neon lights. They recognize trends, they see what's really happening, and make connections that others overlook. It is not a talent that is innate. Rather, it is something that is acquired by awareness, a readiness to challenge everything, and the bravery to face realities that are difficult. You can never unsee it once you've seen it. Because they are familiar with the game, the selected ones are thus dreaded. They see the matrix as it is. They comprehend the underlying meaning behind all that has been shown to them, and they are aware of the systems that govern people's lives. The journey's most significant aspect, however, is that the pain you've gone through wasn't random. It wasn't some unfortunate turn of events. The fire that shaped you was your initiation. You were never punished for the difficulties you encountered. They were endurance tests. Every setback, betrayal, and moment of despair was really a test to mold you into a person who could endure, adapt, and overthrow the system. The purpose of the world was to shape you into a weapon powerful enough to smash the delusion they have created, not to harm you. And it is the thing that scares them the most. Because those who have been selected, who have endured hardship and come out stronger, are indestructible. After being put to the test and changed, they now see the world for what it really is. And nothing in this system can ever stop them once they grasp their full potential. 10th, suffering was not your punishment, but rather your initiation. What if all of the suffering, heartbreak, and crippling moments of uncertainty you've experienced weren't the result of pure luck or a chance turn of events? Could it have been intentional, to forge you, not to punish you? The purpose of every adversity, difficulty, and struggle was to make you stronger than you could have ever dreamed of, not to shatter you. Consider this: steel can only be forged into a weapon by fire. And that's precisely what caused your pain. Fire. You weren't supposed to crumble in despair or sag beneath the weight of your hardships. You were destined to persevere and push over your perceived boundaries. Each obstacle served as a springboard to something bigger. an essential development to get you ready for what's coming. Suffering is often seen as an indication that something has gone wrong. In actuality, however, it served as a trial run for your abilities. Life presented you with these difficulties because it knew you could overcome them, not to ruin you.